Hi, King Dan here. The title of this presentation is True Parents' Way, The Road to Eternal Serfdom. So first, a little background. True Parents' Way, and I'm not actually talking about what is the genuine True Parents' Way. I'm talking about True Parents' Way as the online blog written and published by Tyler Hendricks. Many of you know Tyler Hendricks from being president of HSA UWC, board members of different organizations, president of different organizations, or UTS professor for many years. So True Parents' Way attempts to explain the divine principle. He writes articles, he publishes videos explaining and regularly interpreting theological matters, trying to make it easier for people to understand. Unfortunately, he regularly reinterprets theological matters depending on the social winds that are in play at the time in the movement of Family Fed. So if you read his articles, they're filled with cherry-picked quotes used to support pre-divine positions that he's supposed to support already. So if you understand the academic world, this is called confirmation bias. So if you look at his articles and compare it directly with the divine principle, it lacks complete and academic integrity when scrutinized yourself. So ultimately, True Parents' Way leads the uninformed into supporting non-biblical and unprincipled positions. He gives you just enough truth to make it seem accurate, but he distorts that 1%, which changes the meaning of the entire article, if there's truth in it at all. And then he regularly uses the language and the familiarity of the unificationist culture and language that we're familiar with in the movement. In summary, True Parents' Way is a trusted source for fake news. So this presentation actually is a case study, giving you an example. I can tell you it's filled with cherry-picked quotes, and I can tell you he leads the uninformed, but I wanted to show you by actually demonstrating looking in depth in one of his articles. The article I chose is A Declaration of Independence and Constitution. It was published on October 5th, 2016. I chose this one simply because I didn't want to look at and read more of his stuff. I've read enough, and I did a write-up on this last year, so I just reuse a lot of the same material. The article is written and is intended to support Family Fed's so-called constitution, the Constitution for the Kingdom of Heaven on Earth. Unfortunately, if you actually read this article, its message, its purpose, its intent directly contradicts the spirit and purpose of the divine principle in the section of the principle that he's quoting from. All right, so issue 1, Tyler Hendrick states, the ideal world resembles the structure and function of a perfect individual. Great! How can you disagree with that? And he's pulling it straight out of the divine principle, and here's the section, part 2, chapter 5, section 3.2. So yes, that absolutely makes sense. But if you look at how this statement is used in the context of the paragraph, he takes the statement and manipulates it, uses it completely out of context. The article's context demonstrates how government kind of dictates over the nation and explains the branches of governments representing distinct parts of an ideal world. And we'll talk more about those branches in different parts later. But the way he's saying it is the government would be the dominant body, dominant organization over the citizens, over its people. Now, if you understand the divine principle, this actually distorts the entire purpose and original intent of the separation of powers, the section he's quoting from. Section 3.2 wants the separation of powers intentionally to keep government small and in the servant position. Because government's small, you have a voluntary, private, free market economy, free market society that would naturally develop and create a perfected or a nation resembling a perfected individual. The government in this nation would just be one small part of the ideal nation, not the dominating organizational structure over its people. So it's completely in reverse of this section. The second issue that this article easily demonstrates is that Tyler Hendricks fabricates the number of branches in the government. Same section of the divine principle, the significance of the separation of powers. Tyler Hendricks here states that the kingdom of heaven has 6 branches. Why does he state that? Because that's the Family Fed Constitution that was released, saying here's how we're going to do things, shove it down your throat. So in this Constitution, you've got a Supreme Council made for decisions, making decisions over you. Then you have the Office of Media and Communications, the Executive, the Assembly, the Judiciary, and the Foundation. These are supposed to be the 6 branches of the nation. But really, if you look at the divine principle makes it really easy. It says the 3 branches of government in the ideal world, the legislative, judicial, and executive branches, will interact in a harmonious and principled relationships when they follow God's guidance. Now, later in the divine principle, it also says it's modeled after the United States government. So on one side, you have Tyler Hendrick saying there's 6 branches of governments, adding things like a propaganda wing, so you got Office of Media and Communications, and adding things like the financial foundation. Maybe potentially that's like a Federal Reserve or a infinite bank where you have to beg and borrow for money. So these have nothing to do with the tradition of Judeo-Christianity building a nation, which eventually led to America, and then Chung Il-guk using that American model as the example for Chung Il-guk. Issue 3, Tyler Hendricks fabricates the branches in the government as compared to the human body. So not only did he get the number wrong, in this case, he's also getting the specific parts of the body wrong. How can you do that? The divine principle actually shows it to you. He says that the Supreme Council is like the brain. Office of Media and Communications is like the spinal cord and peripheral system. The executive branch is like the stomach. The assembly is like the lungs. The judiciary is like the heart. The foundation is like the liver. But he makes this stuff up. Like the divine principle is pretty simple. If you read it, it says God is the brain, it says Christ is the spinal cord, and it says God-loving leaders is the peripheral system. So I hope you notice what they did is they removed God from this nation, and they stuck in a Supreme Council. I mean, sounds like a dictatorship to me. And actually, if you read the family-fed Constitution, it's not far off. So a bonus issue that I just wanted to throw in there, Tyler Hendrick states that the heavenly Constitution tells the world the shape of the nation. So I actually agree with him. So the family-fed Constitution supports government-granted privileges. It says it's the family-fed Constitution. Actually in there it says it has the authority over matters of faith, or written something like that. So it actually defines your faith and state socialism. So particularly with defining your faith, I mean, that's textbook definition fallen archangelic. It's trying to get between you and God. I mean, that's defining your faith means. In contrast, the U.S. Constitution, which the U.S. Was hard fought based on Judeo-Christian history, and which the divine principle points to as being a model for the kingdom of heaven, the U.S. Constitution established the opposite view of political freedom as compared to Family Fed. Clearly, Family Fed has these, hey, you can do this, but we can also take it away because they're privileges versus inalienable rights. So the Sanctuary Constitution, supported by Hendrick, recognizes God-given rights, not privileges, rights. It recognizes the freedom of religion, and actually starts heavenly socialism as the divine principle tries to explain. Not state socialism run by government, it's heavenly socialism where private people support each other. So, points to ponder. Do you trust the divine principle, or do you trust Tyler Hendricks? Do you trust any of his other interpretive works? What do you trust? Would you actually trust his opinions on the dual characteristics of God? That's changed. Would you trust his opinion on the subject-object authority? That's also changed. Would you trust his opinion of the God of day, God of night? He's changing Father's words on that too. True parents' unity? That's changed. Hakshahan's teachings? How he's trying to twist those to fit into the divine principle. The meaning of the Foundation Day blessing. All these things, if you look them up, it has nothing to do with what Father's actually saying and intending or meaning when Father explains them, either in the principle or in his speeches. So I gave you just one real quick example of one of his works, but I encourage you to look in all of those works and all of those topics. Hey, make your own explaining what he's saying versus what it's actually saying. Make your own videos. If the divine principle points to God, who is Tyler Hendricks pointing to? Ooh. If you're not on God's side, which side are you? So, lessons learned. Tyler Hendricks is just one Pied Piper in the Family Fed Symphony. Oh, and there's many. Pretty much if you've got a doctorate or some leadership position in Family Fed, everyone thinks you're fantastic and you're defending Mother, but really what you're doing is you're just exposing yourself as an intellectual prostitute, because what you're doing is you're twisting the divine principle to fit what Hak Shahan is actually saying. It's not based off the principle. It's not based on Father's words. And what you're also doing is you're giving lip service to the divine principle, Declaration of Independence in this particular example, and the U.S. Constitution. So you're using the trust of these documents, the emotional bond people have with trying to understand and follow the divine principle, and you're using that and manipulating that to your own advantage. So I know mistakes happen, but this is a systemic and a habitual issue. I encourage you to read all of his other articles you can find. Have fun at it. You will see a similar pattern of abuse in many of them. I got tired of reading him. He's just a puppet in my mind. He does whatever he wants to do, and if you read his articles, compare it, it won't take you long just to ignore everything. But don't trust me like you trust him. Actually look for it yourself. And that's, I think, a big thing is you actually have to own and have your own relationship with God's word. Because in the end, he can only lead the willfully ignorant. Hopefully after watching this video, you are not willfully ignorant. Or maybe if you harden yourself, you will be willfully ignorant even more. But at least you watch this video and know a little bit more that it's not actually what you think it is. So I just wanted to share that with you and have fun. Thanks.